Hello, Victoria again. Here for part two of my INFJ childhood series. Um, Sorry about the last one being really long. It's like half an hour. I'm going to try to make this one like under 20 minutes. I think it'll be possible. Also, excuse the very casual wear. I just came back from running. So, yeah. Okay. So, there were actually like two things I wanted to mention, or like I wanted to add to my last video. Um, it like wasn't long enough, but just one thing. The first one was that so as a kid, um, I remember like watching a lot of TV and like looking and in a lot of the cartoons they would have you know um, a girls versus guys thing. Like maybe there's like some like sports game and it's like, girl power, blah blah. And like the girls always won. And I like without exception, I remember like I first noticed this when I was like in elementary school and then in middle school especially. I was like, why are the girls like always winning at everything? Why is it that like in all these cartoons and these like kids shows like that the girls are always better, like somehow they're always smarter and like dominant over all the guys? And to me that was like not fair. That didn't make any sense. It was like, that's stupid. And like I could see that it was like so fake, like that the people making these shows were clearly like they were just like trying to so hard to be like feminist and like, well, I didn't know what feminism really was when I was like in elementary school, but like I just felt like this is like pandering. Like they're trying to like, because I'm a girl, like I need like to, in order to have confidence, have like every like TV show make me dominant over guys and like make me, make the girls always like better, smarter, faster, like always beating them. And then like the fact that the girls were always like rude about it. They're like, yeah, take that, boys, or like girls rule. And I'm like, that's not fair. Like, how come the girls always win? And um, and I think to tie this into the introverted intuition thing, the idea of like seeing through things, like um, it instantly struck me as like, this is fake. Like this is like there's a motive here. Like there's a reason why all these TV shows are doing this. And now as as I got older, like in high school, and I learned more about social issues and all that, I could tell, okay, well, they're trying to be feminists and like trying to give girls lots of confidence and blah blah. But I was like, I don't need that. I mean, like I'm not going to get into feminism right now and my thoughts on it. Maybe that'll be like another video. But um, I just felt like you don't need to do that for me. Like, girl, like this isn't fair. And maybe also because like most of my friends growing up were guys, almost all of them actually. So like I didn't identify strongly with like the idea of being a woman and being a girl. I mean, like I was very feminine though. Like, and I loved princesses and like Barbies and like pink things and like, I liked feminine things, but when it came to like, I don't know, it was weird. Like I was very feminine in some ways, and then in other ways, like, like I was never interested in a lot of the TV shows most girls looked at. Like in middle school, I know like Degrassi and One Tree Hill and like, I don't know, like lots of like, I guess dramas, and it was just like so shallow to me. I was like, this is stupid. I'd rather watch like, I don't know, what did I used to watch in middle school? Like, I'd rather watch like Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like that show to me had more depth than like, I don't know, the OC. But not that I ever really watched those shows much. They just never appealed to me. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't identify strongly with my gender, which I don't know if that's like a thing has to do with introverted intuition, but at least I know that like, at least I feel that as a child, seeing through the motivations, I guess, or thinking that that I knew what the motivation of the people making these shows was, I think that's a sign of introverted intuition working. Just like looking past the product and thinking like, why did they make it that way? And noticing the pattern, because it wasn't just one TV show. It was like a lot of TV shows that were doing this, and movies too. And just feeling that was like unfair, and like clearly they were just trying to like make me feel good about myself, and that was just like so obviously fake. Like, and Yeah, I didn't like that. Okay, I spent like 5 minutes talking about that. The other thing, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to move on to the actual like title of the video, which is extroverted feeling. Okay, so for extroverted feeling, it in my life I really developed it more in high school, but the signs of it were definitely strong when I was younger. I mentioned in my last video how I used to personify everything, and I wasn't sure if that was like NI or FE, but I think, it's a bit of both, I think. So just to recap, yeah, like I thought that like everything had feelings, basically, and, like my dolls, books, even like, I don't know, a story that I'd written. I don't know, like things, they somehow they weren't objects. They were what I thought of that object and what I wanted that, well, maybe you don't know, but yeah, so that's one thing, is just like not seeing the object as just an object, seeing it as more than what I thought it, than what it probably was, when what it is. Anyway, so one thing that I know had to do with extroverted feeling was the fact that I never got into fights with my friends. I used to always hear from some of my other friends about some drama going on, like this person said this and then I said this and now we're not talking anymore. And I was just so confused because I was like, I would, try to comfort them and be like, oh, I'm sorry. Well, maybe like you can still be friends, or if you like maybe, I don't know, wait a little while and then talk to them again. I try to give my little advice, but I didn't understand like how that could happen, because I've never actually had a fight with a friend, or even with someone who wasn't a friend. Now once I got to like middle school, high school, I had gotten into a couple arguments on the internet. But in real life, like face to face, I've never got into a fight. Now I followed my brother, but it's a bit different. So that's one thing I kind of prided myself on, was like, I've never been in a fight with anyone. But of course that also just means that it's not to say that I didn't disagree with people on things, or that people didn't make me upset. I just decided it wasn't worth causing trouble, because I didn't know how they might react. So I wanted to have friends. I didn't want to be a loner. So I thought, well, if I argue with this person over this, they might not like me anymore, and then I won't have any friends. So, yeah, didn't get into fights, didn't cause trouble really. I was very easy to get along with. I think I tried hard to be easy to get along with. I didn't want people to think I was annoying, or like, I didn't want people to dislike me, which is a pretty common thing, I feel like, for a lot of kids, regardless of what type you are. But it was especially strong in me, I think. Now, I knew that I had sort of strange interests, especially for a girl, like really into superheroes and comics and like fantasy and I don't know, things that most girls, at least my age, didn't seem interested in. And so, like I said, most of my friends were guys, but not like the jock kind of guys. Like, I wasn't really sporty. It was more like kind of the nerdy sort of crowd, for the people I used to hang out with. So yeah, I mean, so in a way I didn't mind what people thought. It was the people that I cared about, I minded what they thought about me. So the girls who I didn't talk to, I didn't really care if they thought I was like kind of weird, but like I didn't want my friends to like think I was annoying, or the people that I respected to think that I was annoying or whatever. So I guess, it was limited. As I got older, like I started to care more and more about other people, but when I was younger, it was much more limited. So I was less afraid of being unique when I was younger than when I got older. I always wanted to impress my teachers. That was a big thing for me. I always got good grades, but it wasn't from my parents, really. They didn't really, I mean, they wanted me to do well, but they never really pushed me that hard. I guess because I always did it on my own, so they never really like were, trying to get me to study or do my homework or saying, Victoria, make sure you get all A's. Like, they didn't care, it seemed. And even when I would get all A's on my report card, I would hand it in to them, and then my mom would be like, oh, good job, Victoria. And she would smile and she'd give it back to me, and like, that's it. Like, there was no big, like, wow, Victoria, you're so smart. I'm so proud of you. But I kind of wanted a little bit, but, I guess they were just used to it. So, it wasn't for them. Like, I wasn't trying to impress my parents. I didn't really care about that. But I wanted my teachers to think I was a good student. I wanted them to think I was smart. I don't know why I cared so much, but I was a people pleaser, and I especially wanted my teachers to I wanted to like live up to their expectations. Like, the worst thing for me was to like disappoint my teacher. I never, like, people just in general, disappointing people. I mean, that's something that I would be dwelling on for like weeks if I felt that I disappointed someone. And I would think about all the things I could have done differently. It was really hard if that happened, when that happened, because it did happen. So that's one thing, is like always wanting my teachers to think I was smart. But I didn't like showing off so much, especially when I got older. When I was younger, in elementary school, when we would finish our test, we were supposed to raise our hand for the teacher to come and take our test or whatever. And it became kind of a race to see like who would finish their test first. And so I was pretty fast. So I would often be the first person to raise my hand. And I was felt pride in that. I was like, I'm the first one done. And they raise my hand and say, I'm finished, or, I'm done, or whatever. And, they would come over and take my test. And I felt, a sense of satisfaction. So, I was a bit of a show off a little bit when I was younger. Like, I would say, like, kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade, I really wanted to show that I knew things. And I wanted my teacher and my peers to see me as smart. As I got older, I got much more self-conscious about it. And by the time I was in high school, I was actively trying to like repress that and try to act like I was not as smart as I was, in a way. I didn't want people to think that I was like a show off, or, so that you can see sort of the development of my extroverted feeling in that way. And high school, I'm not going to talk so much about high school because I feel like that's more getting into like adulthood in terms of my way of thinking. So that might be, I think I'll save my high school experience for like when I talk about being a more mature INFJ. So this is more about when I was younger. So as a child, I also found it very easy to see other people's points of view. So I found it very difficult to actually be angry at people. I mean, I would be angry for a moment, but then once I stepped back and started thinking about it, the anger would go away, because I would think, oh, okay, well, I mean, I kind of understand why they did that, because, maybe they just had a bad day, or I don't know, something like that. Like I didn't hold grudges. I could never say I hated people. And I just couldn't understand how other people felt that way, because I had friends who would say like, oh, I hate that girl, or I hate that guy, or I hate this teacher, or something. And, of course, as a kid, you will say, like, I would say, oh, I hate this and I hate that. But I can't say I really hated anyone. I could not muster up the strong, like, those kinds of feelings in myself. Maybe I'm just lucky in that, like, maybe I've just had a fortunate childhood where no one has done something bad enough for me to hate them. But that's another thing. Even now, I really can't say I hate anyone. Or, I guess, yeah, I think that's one thing. It's just, I would have anger, but then I would sort of quickly sort of repress it and then just think about, okay, well, if I think about it from their point of view, then I can understand why they did that or something. So another thing, when I was a kid is, well, even now, but definitely when I was a kid, was I had a very strong empathy for people, and for people I didn't even know. So I grew up in New Jersey, and I used to go to a Catholic school in Newark, and Newark is a very poor city, in that like lots of poverty and that sort of thing. And so lots of homeless people. And when we'd be driving to school, there were always at certain places in the same places every day. There would be homeless people, begging for money. And I eventually came to recognize the different homeless people, and I knew when we were coming up to the place where they were. This is when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old, and I would just get so anxious when I knew we were approaching this spot, because the thing is, my dad hardly ever used to give money. Not that he's like cold or anything, but because I would be like, Daddy, please give them something, and he'd be like, Victoria, most of these people, they're on drugs, and they're just going to use the money to go buy drugs. And you don't know like what they're going to do with your money. Like, I would rather buy them like some food or something than give them money. And when I thought about it, I was like, okay, like I understand, but from my point of view, I was like, well, wouldn't it be better to give the money and then to not give it, and then them actually really needing it? Like, I would rather err on the side of like trusting them than to not trust them. And so I felt guilty that I wasn't giving anything, even though, I'm like 6, 7 years old. I don't have any money. But I was like, I really, really wanted my dad to give money, but he usually didn't. And the people, they would come up to the car usually, and they would kind of, go up to the window hoping to get some money. And I would just feel so bad. I would like sink down in my seat and like, try to pretend they weren't there after a while. Like I couldn't stand like looking at them or acknowledging them when I knew like we weren't going to do anything to help them. And I remember like, sometimes my dad would give money, or my mom, like once in a while. And that way I feel so happy. I'm like, yay. But I used to like fantasize about like, us stopping and, inviting the homeless person. Or maybe they're not homeless. I don't know. I mean, they're begging. So maybe they don't, that doesn't necessarily mean they're homeless. But, well, I always fantasize about like, we would stop our car and we would invite them in, and they'd, sit in the back seat, and then we would take them to like get some food, and then we'd buy them something, and then we'd say, oh, do you want to like stay with us for a little bit? Like, we have room in like our attic or something. And then like, I was just going through this whole scenario in my head of like how this would happen, and then they'd go to our house, and then we'd set up a little bed. And I used to fantasize about this a lot. And I guess to like help me deal with the fact that I couldn't really do anything. So that's kind of how I dealt with that, was just like imagining what we could do. And this is also like, a bit of introverted intuition. So it's hard to separate them. I'm realizing more and more like, but anyway, so that's one thing, was like really empathizing, and not just, I would think about it in school too. I would think back to that homeless person, and I'm like, well, I wonder if they're really on drugs, or like, how does that even happen? Like, how do you become homeless? Like, don't they have a family, or how come they can't live with their family? To me, it didn't make any sense. I was like, I don't understand how someone could be homeless if they have like parents or like a brother or someone. Like, why can't they stay with them? And I would think, well, maybe what if they were able to just like call them? Maybe they could use our phone. But anyway, so that's one thing. Another thing that I still experience, is actually called, there's an actual word for it. I think it's called like secondary embarrassment or secondhand embarrassment. Basically, like, whenever I would like watch, let's say like a TV show or a movie, and there's a character who is embarrassing themselves, like really strongly, and maybe the character doesn't feel embarrassed, but like they're still doing something embarrassing. I would just feel so strongly about it. Like I would feel so embarrassed for them. Like I would sometimes, like if it was an episode I'd seen before, I would turn away, or like I would change the channel, or like I would just kind of curl into a ball, like, oh, I don't want to watch this. It was just so strong, and I don't know why. I mean, like, because my brother would be watching the same thing and it's not affecting him. I mean, he's just like, whatever. He would find it funny because this is like, there's a TV show called Gilligan's Island, and it's from like the 1960s, but they used to show reruns on TV Land, and I loved that show. This is like fourth grade, I would say. I used to watch Gilligan's Island, and he does a lot of embarrassing things. It's a pretty funny show, but sometimes he would just do something that was just like, oh my gosh, and I just like couldn't look. I couldn't watch. I felt so strongly about it that sometimes like if I knew that episode was coming on, I wouldn't even want to watch it because it was so strong. And like same thing like with the news, like live things really freak me out. Like watching something live, it like makes me very nervous for them because I don't know, like what if they embarrass themselves? Like, TV shows like American Idol, like I used to like enjoy watching it for a time, but like after a while, like sometimes I would just have to like turn away, or I couldn't enjoy it. Or like my mom, she loves watching like cooking shows, or like the cooking like competitions where they have to like race against the clock to like make something, and that like it just like makes me nervous because I'm like, oh, I can't watch it, like. And I don't know, I wish I weren't this way in some ways. Like I wish sometimes like I could just like turn it off, because like I want to enjoy this show, like I want to like be able to, like, or even with the homeless people, like sometimes I was like, I just want to like walk down this street and like not have to like be like worrying and like just obsessing over like, or feeling so strongly these emotions. Like I wish I could just go through my life sometimes without just like being constantly bombarded with all of these emotions. Like, and sometimes the only solution is to just go back into my mind and just like imagine how the things I want to do, but then don't actually end up doing to make the situation better. Like, yeah, this still happens to me. But when I was younger, I didn't really understand what it was, like why I felt that way. But now, like, it's the same thing, like with just awkward things, like really awkward things, not just embarrassing, but awkward. I mean, those two are kind of similar, but like, like awkward interviews, like TV interviews. Oh my gosh, so painful. Like, and some people will find them so funny, but like I'll try to look at it if somebody shares something on Facebook, and I'm just like, oh, I can't watch it. And I'll just like have to close it because I can't watch it. Anyway, so that that's one thing. Okay, so another sort of big manifestation of FB when I was a child was my huge need to be accepted into a group. Now, I am an introvert, and I have no problem spending a lot of time by myself, but I only feel comfortable with that when I know that once I leave my alone time, I can jump back into a social group. Like I don't have to, like I'm alone by choice, not because people don't want to be around me. That's what I want. And as a kid, like I found it very difficult to fit into any sort of group, to feel like I really belonged. Like I could sort of pretend to be part of a group, and I was part of like multiple sort of groups, but I never felt like I totally was accepted. And maybe they actually had accepted me, but I somehow felt I don't think they really accepted me. And I'll give some examples. So for one thing, like I'm half black, half white. So And I'm very light skinned. So I found it very difficult to fit into any sort of like, you know, community, right? And I went to a school, in elementary school, for the first 4 years, I was at a school where the population was like 99% black. And then in middle school, it was more like 60% black. But basically, I wanted to be part of that community. I wanted to be considered black. And I tried really hard to try to fit in, but I never quite felt like I fit in. And I was always on my toes about it. Like, I was always so conscious of what I was saying, what I was wearing, the kind of music I was listening to. But I was just so careful. I could never relax among that group. I always had to be on my feet and like very careful, because I saw what happened to, middle school. I remember there was this like kid, I think he was like a sixth grader, who had said, I didn't hear him say it, someone said that he had said that he didn't like black people. And this is like an 11-year-old kid, so what does he know? But a bunch of the black kids in my school were like getting ready to like jump him and beat him up. And I was like, oh my God. Like, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, you're just going to prove his point. Like, why would you react in that way? Like, maybe the reason he doesn't like black people is because like he's had some bad experiences and this is just how he feels now. Shouldn't you try to like change that perception? Well, I never said this, because I couldn't say this because like I've just been sort of accepted into the group. Like, I had black friends. I could not afford to offend them. That's what I mean by like being constantly careful of what I said. And like another one is I never said the N-word ever. And I knew that like the N-word was something only black people could say. Right? This is middle school, by the way. And I know there was like a Puerto Rican girl who like fit in with the black crowd, and I remember she used to use the N-word a lot, and she's as light as me. And so I was thinking in my mind, well, I mean, she can say it. So, and I'm half black, so I should be able to say it, right? But I was just so scared. I was like, what if I say this, but then it backfires and they like try to jump me or something? So I never used the N-word among my black friends. I never felt like I truly belonged enough to that group that I could use that word. So that's one thing. Another community that I never totally fit into was like, the girls, right? Like I was never like, I wasn't like most girls, I guess. And maybe that's why I always wanted to hang out with guys. So I didn't totally fit into that either. And then, because I was feminine and I wanted to be feminine and I wanted to be seen as being a feminine girl, because I liked guys and I wanted guys to be attracted to me. But I didn't fit in with the girls, really. I also was, okay, well, we'll leave that there. Basically, I wanted to be accepted into a group. And even now, I still feel that way. Some kids, they don't really care about that. My brother, I don't think he cared so much about that. He was pretty fine just doing his own thing. But for me, it wasn't enough to just do my own thing. I needed to belong somewhere. That was so important to me. And my parents used to say, like, Victoria, like, you don't need to be like other kids. And, I grew up in a very strict Christian home. So this was something they really emphasized, was like, you're not like your other friends. You can't be like them. And to me, I'm thinking, that's all I want to do. I just want to be, I want to be accepted by them. I don't want to be different. I don't want to be weird. I mean, I just want to be like accepted and like, but my parents, didn't want me to be like that. And my brother didn't seem to have that desire either. So I seemed to be the only one who cared about fitting in. So, I could fit in on the surface. Like I said, I was not a loner. I had friends, but I never really felt like I truly belonged. I was always sort of floating around in different friend groups, never quite finding my group. So that was really my middle school life, more than anything. So to wrap up, this is going to be about 30 minutes. I thought it was going to be shorter than that, but my extroverted feeling, I definitely think it was strong in childhood, but, it was very undeveloped, right? I mean, like I said, when I was younger, I was much less self-conscious about what I was doing. So, of course, I cared about people's feelings, but I didn't know enough about people to be aware of how my actions might hurt them. So, there were times when I hurt my parents' feelings. There were times I'd hurt other people's feelings, and of course I felt terrible about it afterward, but I was much less restrained when I was younger. So, like I said, I used to be kind of a show-off when I was in elementary school with, being smart and also my art. So I was always drawing, and people would tell me, "Oh, you're a good artist." And so I wanted to show off my drawing skills, and I did whenever I had the chance. But as I got older and I came to realize that, people don't really care much about whether I think I'm smart or not. Like, people care about themselves, basically. Like, people are selfish, they're self-interested. They don't really care, like, about me talking about how, my grades or whatever. So by the time I got to, like, middle school, I kind of stopped doing that. And definitely by high school, like, I hardly used to raise my hand in class anymore because I didn't want to be seen as, like, someone who thinks they're better than everyone else. So I tried to really restrain that. So, in that way, my FE really developed a lot as I, like, through puberty and then high school. That sort of stage is when I became much more aware of how my actions impacted others and how I could make other people happy. I had a better understanding of that, basically, as I got older. But definitely, when I was a kid, I always cared about harmony. Um, I think I'm an Enneagram 9. I'm not, like, totally sure, but I identify a lot with that Enneagram type. So, I really wanted harmony. I wanted people to get along, and I was willing to sacrifice my wants and desires to do that. And so, yeah. So that concludes this video on FE. Sorry for taking so long to get it out. I know I said in my other video I would do it in, like, a few days, and it's been, like, almost a week. But I'm back in Japan now. Before I was at my parents' house. So I live in Japan, by the way. I'm a teacher. So anyway, the next one will be TE. I might actually, like, join, or not TE, TI, Introverted Thinking. I might actually join that with SE, since I don't have a whole lot to say for SE because I kind of talked about it a lot when I was talking about NI. I just realized when I was looking back on the video that I was talking about NI by talking about how I'm bad at SE. So I might just join those two. Also, on my hand, in case you're wondering, this is, like, when I was running, before I ran, I decided to write, like, an inspirational quote on my hand to, like, keep me running. So it says, "I don't stop when I'm tired, I stop when I'm done." Just in case you're wondering what that is. Okay, so that's it. And I will see you guys in a few days whenever I feel like recording the other one. So feel free to leave a comment or send me a message or whatever. I'm happy to talk about any of this sort of thing. Okay, bye.